In southwest China's Chongqing municipality, people often see a tall, thin man with grey hair wiping tombstones, trimming branches, and arranging flowers in Jishan Park. His name is Wei Yingshan, and he has been guarding this cemetery for over 40 years.
Every morning at 6 o'clock, I go to the grave of Kulishenko unless it rains heavily. He sacrificed himself to defend our country, our homeland, and our people. In my eyes, he is a true hero.
In June 1939, Soviet Air Force Major Kulishenko was assigned an urgent and secret task. He was to shed his military uniform, pilot warplanes with Chinese emblems, and fly eastward to cooperate with the Chinese Air Force in fighting against Japan. Before leaving, he left his wife a farewell letter. In it, he did not specify where he was going, but at the end, he quoted a poem by the Soviet poet Konstantin Simonov to comfort his wife. "Wait for me, and I will return. Death I've conquered time and time again. Let those who never wait say I'm lucky, and feel surprised. Those who do not wait will not understand. Wait for me, I will come back." A few days later, Kulishenko, commander of the 3rd Soviet Volunteer Air Group, leading a total of 12 Ilyushin DB-3 heavy bombers and a batch of strategic materials, arrived at Chengdu Taiping Temple Airport in China. Meanwhile in China, the aerial battlefield against Japan could no longer simply be described as brutal. The Japanese Air Force had 2,625 aircraft, far outnumbering those of China. In this unequal battle, those young Chinese pilots often flew their bullet-riddled aircraft resolutely charging towards the enemy's positions with a determination to fight to the death. The sky was bathed in bloody hues. The then Chinese government sought assistance from the Soviet Union. In August 1937, the two countries signed the Sino-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact. The Soviet Union sent military advisors and volunteer pilots to the battlefield in China. It was against this historical backdrop Grigori Kulishenko came to China. Chengdu was the airbase of Kulishenko's air group and also his training base for Chinese pilots. He was demanding and meticulous in his instruction, training, and flying. His explanations were clear and easy to understand. To help Chinese pilots correct their mistakes, he would lead flights 3 or 4 times until they mastered the skills. Liu Chun, who was the interpreter for the Soviet Volunteer Air Group, recalled, "From the first day that Commander Kulishenko arrived, I worked as an interpreter in his group. He rarely spoke unless there was something to discuss. I remember one time he couldn't hold back and asked me to question a pilot who had operated improperly. Is the plane controlling him, or is he controlling the plane?" The pilot stood in silence for a long time, feeling ashamed. Kulishenko then slowly explained that the plane was the property of the country, and bringing planes from the Soviet Union to China was not an easy task. Each one damaged meant one less, and even a broken steel wire required replacement parts from afar.
After Kulishenko came to China, he trained many pilots for us, educating them to cherish the aircraft and every part of it. He taught them to value the aircraft more than themselves and protect it even at the cost of their own lives.
In 1939, Japanese forces intensified their bombing campaigns against China's southwestern hinterland. On May the 3rd and 4th, Japanese warplanes took off from Wuhan and continuously bombed the central region of Chongqing with mass deployment of firebombs. Within 2 days, the city was engulfed in flames, leaving 200,000 people homeless. Faced with such a tragic scene, Kulishenko told his interpreter Liu Chun, the Japanese army must pay the price, one by one. Months later, the counterattack finally began. On September the 29th, Kulishenko led the Soviet volunteer air group to bomb the Japanese-occupied Guangzhou airport and destroyed dozens of Japanese planes. On October the 3rd, they air raided the Japanese-occupied Hankou airfield, destroying 64 Japanese planes and wiping out elite Japanese flying squadrons. On October the 14th, Kulishenko and his team launched another attack on Hankou. However, this time the Japanese army was prepared and their 26 warplanes took off urgently to confront Kulishenko. Kulishenko calmly commanded the airfight, shooting down 6 Japanese jets. However, the enemy spotted the lead aircraft he was piloting, and 3 fighters began to encircle Kulishenko. In the fierce battle, Kulishenko was injured in the chest, bleeding profusely. He endured the intense pain and headed back along the Yangtze River to the base. When his plane reached Chongqing, it lost balance and became uncontrollable.
He could have saved himself if he had jumped out of the plane. But in order to protect the plane, the lives and property of the local people, he chose to stay and made an emergency landing on the river.
At this critical moment of life and death, Kulishenko ordered his crewmates to swim to shore and remember the location for future recovery of the aircraft. They escaped danger, but the severely injured Kulishenko was engulfed by the waves, resting forever in China. That year, he was just 36. Since Kulishenko went missing, locals have been searching for him along the river. However, due to the swift current of the Yangtze River, it wasn't until 20 days later, more than 10 kilometers downstream from the accident site, that his body was found.
In November 1939, after the remains of Kulishenko were recovered, people worked together and spontaneously organized a funeral for martyr Kulishenko.
A grand funeral was held for Kulishenko. Wei Yingshang's mother, Tan Zhonghui, was one of the graveyard keepers back then.
My grandfather told my mother that martyr Kulishenko sacrificed himself to defend our country. We must remember him, and so my mother accepted the task and continued until her retirement.
Since 1958, Tan Zhonghui and her son Wei Yingshang have taken turns guarding the tomb and the heroic spirit of Kulishenko for over 60 years. During the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, Kulishenko came to China to fight alongside the Chinese people. In turn, Tan Zhonghui and her son cherished the friendship, making it ever fresh over time.